The silver starship descended through Lyria's purple clouds, its engines humming as it approached the designated landing zone. Inside, Dr. Kim wiped sweat from his brow. As the lead cynoanthropologist on humanity's first contact mission to this newly discovered world, his heart raced with anticipation. "Final approach," announced the pilot. "Everyone prepare for landing procedures." Kim checked his atmospheric adapter one last time. The scan showed Lyria's air was breathable, but contained trace elements that might cause mild discomfort without protection. He joined the 5 other team members in the airlock as the ship settled onto the alien soil with a gentle thud. "Remember," said Captain Du, the mission commander, "we represent all of Earth. First impressions matter." The airlock doors slid open, revealing a landscape of swaying purple-silver vegetation under an amber sky. But Kim's attention immediately went to the welcoming committee. 12 tall, graceful aliens with iridescent skin that seemed to shimmer with changing colors. "They're all female," whispered Dr. Song, the team biologist, checking her scanner. "At least they match the female anatomical patterns from our probe data." Kim stepped forward as diplomatic lead. A Lyrian with elaborate decorations on her shoulders moved to meet him. Her skin rippled with waves of blue and green. "I am Elder Neri," she said, her voice melodic even through the translation device. "Welcome to our world, humans of Earth." "Thank you for allowing us to visit," Kim replied with a respectful bow. "We come in peace and friendship." The Lyrians guided them toward a collection of curved structures that seemed to grow from the landscape rather than being built upon it. As they walked, Kim couldn't help noticing the curious stares from local Lyrians who had gathered to witness the historic meeting. The crowd was enormous, hundreds of observers, but something struck him as odd. "Where are the males of your species?" Dr. Song asked quietly. Elder Neri's skin flashed briefly yellow. "They await in the protected dwellings. Males are precious to us." As they continued through the settlement, Kim finally spotted a male Lyrian, distinguished by his smaller stature and different skin pattern. He was surrounded by 4 females who seemed attentive to his every move. Further along, he saw just 2 more males among the hundreds of females. The human delegation was shown to guest quarters. Beautiful rooms with living walls that changed color to match the emotional state of the occupant. After refreshing themselves, they were invited to a formal reception in the central gathering hall. The hall was magnificent, with a transparent ceiling showing Lyria's 3 moons beginning to rise in the darkening sky. Foods of unusual colors and textures were served as Lyrian musicians played instruments that seemed partly alive, responding to their touch with resonant tones. During the meal, Kim noticed Elder Neri watching him with particular interest. When the formal speeches ended, she approached his table. "Your team has many males," she observed, her skin pulsing with a deep amber color. "This is unusual to us." Kim nodded. "On Earth, our population is roughly equal between males and females." The elder's skin flashed with bright patterns that the translator couldn't interpret. "Equal? Truly? How is this possible?" "It's our natural biological balance," Kim explained, confused by her reaction. Another Lyrian joined their conversation, introduced as Bin, the chief scientist. "Would you permit us to ask personal questions about your species' reproduction?" Captain Du, overhearing this, joined them with a cautious expression. "Perhaps we should establish some diplomatic foundations before discussing biology." "Of course," Elder Neri said, her skin settling into a more composed blue. "But time may be precious. Our situation is urgent." Later that night, as the human team discussed their observations in private, Dr. Song shared her analysis. "Their population appears to be over 95% female. That's not natural in any advanced species I've studied. Something is wrong." Captain Du frowned. "We need to proceed carefully. Our mission is diplomatic first." A soft chime interrupted them. A Lyrian messenger requesting Kim's presence. Elder Neri wished to speak with him privately. Kim followed the messenger through moonlit pathways to a structure different from the others. older, seemingly carved from a single massive stone. Inside, Elder Neri waited beside a pool of glowing liquid. "This is our ancestral record," she explained. "It contains our entire history. It's an honor to see it," Kim said, genuinely impressed. "We have not always been as you see us now," Neri said, her voice solemn. "Once, long ago, our males were as numerous as our females. But something changed." She touched the liquid, and it formed images, generations of Lyrians, with the number of males decreasing over time. "We are dying, Dr. Kim. Our last male birth was 3 cycles ago. Soon, there will be none." Kim felt a chill despite the warm air. "I'm sorry. Is there anything we can do to help?" Neri's skin brightened with hope. "Perhaps. Our scientists have studied your biology from orbit. We believe there may be compatibility." "Compatibility," Kim repeated, suddenly understanding the direction of the conversation. "Come to our science center tomorrow," Neri said. "There is much to discuss about the future of both our peoples." As Kim walked back to the human quarters, his mind raced with implications. This first contact mission had just become far more complex than anyone on Earth had imagined. The morning light filtered through the translucent walls of the Science Center as Kim followed Ju, the Lyrian archivist, through corridors lined with living data displays. 2 weeks had passed since first contact, and Earth's diplomatic team had been granted unprecedented access to Lyrian knowledge. "Our records go back 12,000 cycles," Ju explained, her skin shifting to a scholarly blue-green as she guided Kim to a private research room. "This is how we know our decline was not always our fate." Kim watched in fascination as Ju activated a holographic display. 3-dimensional charts materialized in the air, showing population data across millennia. "Here," Ju pointed to a specific point on the timeline. 10,000 cycles ago, our birth ratios were balanced, nearly equal males and females. Then it changed. The display showed a steady decline in male births, generation after generation. "What happened?" Kim asked, studying the pattern. "Our sun entered a new phase of its life cycle," Ju explained. "The radiation change. Our scientists discovered that male embryos became increasingly sensitive to certain wavelengths. Each generation, fewer survived." Kim nodded slowly. "On Earth, some species have temperature-dependent sex determination. Environmental factors can influence which sex develops. We tried everything," Ju continued, her skin darkening with remembered grief. "Shielded breeding facilities, genetic modifications. Nothing worked for long. Nature always found a way to restore the imbalance." A soft chime interrupted them as the door slid open. Jin, a young Lyrian assistant, entered with her skin flickering between excited magenta and anxious green. "Elder Neri requests your presence immediately, human Kim. The compatibility results are complete." Kim had provided biological samples days ago, when the Lyrians had explained their desperate situation. The human diplomatic team had been divided on how to proceed, but scientific cooperation had been approved as a gesture of goodwill. "Thank you for telling me," Kim said, rising from his seat. Jin leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The entire Science Council is there. This has never happened before." As they hurried through the settlement, Kim noticed more Lyrians watching him with open curiosity. Word was spreading. The 3 of them entered a large circular chamber where Elder Neri stood with 7 other Lyrians in formal attire. Bin, the chief scientist, stepped forward. Her skin glowed with barely contained excitement. "The results exceed our highest hopes," she announced. "Human and Lyrian genetic structures show an 82% compatibility index. This should be impossible for species from different worlds." Kim blinked in surprise. "That's remarkable. Are you certain?" "We've verified it 12 different ways," Bin confirmed. "Your DNA can integrate with ours in a way that preserves viability while introducing desperately needed genetic diversity." Elder Neri's skin rippled with deep blue waves. This confirms what our oldest legends suggest, that we are not strangers to each other's kind. Ju touched Kim's arm gently. This is why I showed you our history first. There are gaps in our ancient records, times when our ancestors speak of visitors from beyond the moons. We always thought these were myths. Kim's mind raced. On Earth, we have similarly unexplained gaps. Ancient structures we can't explain, genetic anomalies in isolated populations. Perhaps our paths crossed long ago, Elder Neri suggested. And now, when we need each other most, we meet again. Later that evening, Kim joined Captain Du and the other humans in their quarters to share what he had learned. The captain paced the room, clearly troubled. This goes beyond our mission parameters, Du said firmly. Earth needs to approve any biological exchange program. The ethical implications alone. The Lyrians are dying, interrupted Dr. Song. Their genetic diversity is critically low. Even if we help restore male birth rates, they might not have enough variety to sustain their species. But why are we compatible at all? Asked another team member. It defies evolutionary logic. Kim spread out the ancient Lyrian texts Ju had given him permission to study. Maybe not. Look at these symbols compared to pre-Sumerian artifacts from Earth. The similarities are striking. As the team debated, the Lyrian messenger arrived with an invitation for all of them to attend a cultural ceremony that evening. When they arrived at the gathering place, they found hundreds of Lyrians waiting in concentric circles around a central fire. Elder Neri welcomed them into the innermost circle, where the few remaining Lyrian males sat in places of honor. One elderly male, his skin a pale lavender, gestured for Kim to sit beside him. I am Su, the memory keeper, he said in a voice that needed no translation. He was speaking carefully practiced English. For 60 cycles, I have preserved our stories. Tonight, we share them with you. What followed was unlike anything Kim had experienced, a complex performance of light, sound, and movement that told the story of the Lyrian people, their joy and sorrows, their struggles and triumphs. Through it all ran a thread of longing, for connection, for continuity, for future. When it ended, Su turned to Kim with eyes that held ancient wisdom. Your people have something we lost long ago. Hope. We offer you knowledge in return. That night, as Kim lay awake processing everything he had learned, his communication device chimed with an incoming message from Earth Command. Earth had received their reports and had made a decision about the Lyrian proposal for genetic cooperation. The fate of 2 species now hung in the balance. Kim stood by the window in the human quarters, reading Earth's response for the 5th time. After 3 weeks on Lyria, relationships between the species had grown beyond simple diplomacy. The message from Earth Command was cautious but clear. Limited genetic cooperation was approved, but a full exchange program required more study. Captain Du entered the room, her expression serious. The Lyrian High Council has called for a formal meeting. All of us are requested to attend. Did they say why? Kim asked, tucking away his tablet. No, but after our message from Earth, I can guess. They're going to want more than we're authorized to offer. The team walked together through the central plaza of the Lyrian settlement. Locals stopped to watch them pass, their skin colors shifting with emotions too complex for the humans to fully interpret yet. Kim had begun to recognize certain patterns, the hopeful cyan that appeared when Lyrians spoke of the future, the deep purple of respect. The High Council chamber was an impressive structure, a circular room with walls that seemed alive, changing color with the mood of the gathering. 12 elder Lyrians sat in a semicircle on raised seats, with Elder Neri of the center. The few surviving Lyrian males had places of honor to one side. Captain Du led the human team to the center of the chamber. The room gradually quieted as Elder Neri rose to speak. Friends from Earth, she began, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. For generations, we have faced the slow extinction of our people. Today, we stand at a crossroads of possibility. Her skin shifted to a formal gold as she continued. We propose a partnership between our worlds, not merely scientific, but cultural and personal. We offer knowledge of star paths unknown to your people, energy technology beyond your current capabilities, and medical advances that could benefit Earth greatly." Another elder rose, her skin rippling with earnest patterns. "In exchange, we seek not only genetic material but understanding. Some of your people might choose to stay among us, to help us rebuild what was lost." Captain Du stepped forward. "Elder Neri, we value your friendship and wish to help. But my government has concerns about the scale of what you propose. They've authorized limited scientific cooperation only." A murmur rippled through the chamber as Lyrian skin colors flickered with disappointment. Elder Neri's voice remained calm. "We understand your caution. But time is not our friend. Our youngest male is now 12 cycles old. No new males have been born in our colony for 3 cycles." Kim felt compelled to speak. "If I may, Elder Neri, Captain Du, perhaps we can find middle ground. Earth's concerns stem partly from lack of knowledge. We could establish a scientific mission here, with rotating personnel. As trust builds, more might be possible." The debate continued for hours, with both sides presenting arguments and concerns. As they spoke, Kim noticed an increasing tension in the Lyrian guards near the entrance. They seemed distracted, their skin showing flickers of alarm. Suddenly, the chamber's doors burst open. A Lyrian scout rushed in, her skin pale with fear. "Elders, a Tahoe warship has entered our system. They demand we cease all contact with the Earth humans immediately." The chamber erupted in chaos. Captain Du turned to Kim with alarm. "Who are the Tahoe?" Elder Neri's voice cut through the noise. "A dominating species from a neighboring system. They have kept us isolated for centuries, claiming to protect us while extracting our resources." The scout projected a message onto the chamber wall, a harsh alien face with scaled features and 4 eyes. "Lyrians," the message played, "your interaction with these new aliens violates our protection treaty. End this contact immediately or face consequences. These humans must leave your system within 1 rotation." Captain Du frowned deeply. "You never mentioned being under another species' control." "Not control," corrected Sue, the elderly male memory keeper. "The Tahoe discovered us during our early decline. They presented themselves as saviors, but became oppressors. They fear any alliance that might challenge their dominance." Elder Neri turned to the humans. "Now you understand our urgency. The Tahoe have prevented us from reaching out to other worlds. Your arrival was our first hope in generations." A younger Lyrian female named Mai, who had been working with the human science team, stepped forward. "The Tahoe have no right to prevent our cooperation. Their treaty was signed under duress." Captain Du looked troubled. "Our mission wasn't meant to interfere in existing interspecies relationships. Earth won't want to provoke a war." "If we leave now," Kim argued, "we abandon the Lyrians to extinction. There must be another way." Elder Neri's skin shifted to a resolute crimson. "We will not surrender our future. Not again." She turned to the human delegation. "We ask for your help, but understand if you must protect your own people." The humans gathered in a tight circle to discuss their options. Earth was a 4-day communication delay away. They would need to make decisions without guidance. "We have defensive capabilities on our ship," Captain Du admitted, "but nothing that could stand against a warship." "What about evacuation?" suggested one team member. "We could take some Lyrians back to Earth." "Not enough to maintain genetic diversity," Dr. Song countered. "And the Tahoe would likely pursue." Kim stared at the ancient text again, an idea forming. These records mention hidden places, underground complexes from before the decline, places the Tahoe might not know about. As the discussion continued, alert tones sounded throughout the settlement. On the large display screen, the Tahoe ship moved into orbit around Lyria. Time had run out. Decisions had to be made. The fate of 2 species now hung in the balance. 1 year had passed since the Tahoe conflict. Kim stood beside Elder Neri in the central plaza of the Lyrian settlement, watching as proud parents brought forward their children for the naming ceremony. The morning light caught the iridescent decorations that hung from trees and buildings, celebrating the most important day in recent Lyrian history. 28 males, Neri said quietly, her skin shimmering with joy. Out of 97 births this cycle, nearly 30%. Her voice held wonder. We haven't seen such numbers in 10 generations. Kim smiled, remembering the desperate days a year ago. The plan to activate the old atmospheric processors had worked better than they had hoped. The radiation burst had disrupted Tahoe sensors just long enough for the human ship to launch a precise strike against the Tahoe vessel's propulsion systems. The damaged warship had been forced to retreat, unable to maintain orbit around Lyria. In the months that followed, Earth had sent additional ships, first for protection, then for diplomacy. The Tahoe, faced with united human and Lyrian resistance, had eventually agreed to a treaty that recognized Lyrian independence. Ambassador Kim called a familiar voice. Kim turned to see me approaching, her skin a proud maternal purple. In her arms, she carried a small bundle, her son, one of the first new generation of Lyrian males born after the genetic therapy succeeded. He's growing quickly, Kim observed, smiling at the infant whose skin shifted through soft pastel colors as he observed the world around him. Thanks to you, Mai replied. All of you. She glanced toward the group of humans who had chosen to remain on Lyria as part of the permanent Earth Embassy. The ceremony began as Elder Neri moved to the center of the gathering. One by one, parents brought their children forward to receive their formal names and be recorded in the Lyrian ancestral records. We honor not only our children today, Neri announced, her voice carrying across the plaza, but also the bond between our peoples. Kim glanced at the ancient Lyrian text he'd been studying. These symbols match artifacts found on Earth dating back nearly 12,000 years. I believe our species may have crossed paths before the Tahoe isolated you. Captain Du, now Ambassador Du, stepped forward to stand beside Neri. The formal alliance between Earth and Lyria had been approved 6 months ago, establishing regular transport between the worlds and exchange programs for scientists, artists, and educators. The Tahoe have retreated to their borders, Du said to Kim quietly as they watched the ceremony. Our latest intelligence suggests they're too busy dealing with internal conflicts to bother us anytime soon. Good, Kim replied. We all need time to build something new. After the naming ceremony, Kim walked through the settlement, observing the changes a year had brought. Human architecture now stood alongside Lyrian designs. Small groups of humans and Lyrians sat together in the community gardens, sharing meals and conversations. Some humans had chosen to settle permanently on Lyria, finding connection with the alien culture that had welcomed them so openly. Near the Science Center, Kim found Dr. Bin working with a team of human and Lyrian researchers. Since the breakthrough with the genetic therapy, their collaboration had expanded to other areas: medicine, agriculture, clean energy. Knowledge flowed freely between worlds now. The new crop adaptations are exceeding expectations, Bin told him, her skin bright with scientific excitement. Earth plants modified for Lyrian soil are showing 30% higher yields. And the neural pattern study? Kim asked. Fascinating results. Bin activated a display showing brain activity comparisons between humans and Lyrians. Despite our different evolutionary paths, our emotional responses are remarkably similar. It explains why our species formed connections so quickly. Later that evening, a celebration began in the central plaza. Music from both worlds blended as humans and Lyrians danced together under the light of Lyria's 3 moons. Kim found a quiet spot at the edge of the gathering, content to watch the joy around him. Elder Neri joined him, her skin a peaceful blue. When your ship first landed, I feared it was too late for my people, she admitted. Now I see it was exactly the right time. For both our species, Kim agreed. Earth needed this connection too, though we didn't know it. Your perspective on harmony with your world has already influenced our environmental policies. And your adaptability inspired us to look beyond old traditions, Neri replied. Change can be good. They watched as a group of human and Lyrian children played together, inventing games that combined elements from both cultures. The youngest generation would grow up knowing nothing but friendship between their peoples. The Interspecies Research Institute opens next month, Kim said. We've already received applications from 10 other worlds interested in joining our work. Nari's skin rippled with satisfaction. The Tahoe's greatest fear comes true, peoples uniting across the stars. As the twin moons rose higher, Kim reflected on how much had changed since that first day when he'd stepped onto Lyrian soil. What had begun as a standard diplomatic mission had evolved into something neither world could have anticipated. We gave each other what was needed most, Nari said, seeming to read his thoughts. You brought new genetic paths and fresh perspectives. We offered knowledge and a reminder of what truly matters. That life finds a way, Kim suggested. That connections transcend differences, Nari corrected, her skin glowing with wisdom accumulated over a long life. That when different beings come together with open hearts, the impossible becomes possible. The celebration continued into the night, a testament to the truth of her words. Two worlds, once strangers, now moved forward together into a future brighter than either could have achieved alone.